My name is Carly Hodge, and I'm an intern at the Counseling Center. And I want to talk today about Enneagram types and social distancing, and whether or not there's a way that the Enneagram can help us fight the experience of social isolation, which I think many of us might be running up against in this time. So I want to talk about this activity that I've asked you all to do. And I asked you to put your favorite thing about social distancing, if you have one, and your least favorite thing about social distancing, if you have one, and put it in the chat. For the sake of the activity, I thought that I would share mine. So my favorite thing has been that I have rediscovered rollerblading. It's been a ton of fun. And my least favorite thing, I thought I would put this image. I'm not sure if the quality is great, but I will read it to you. So this is from Parks and Rec, and that's Chris Traeger, if you're familiar with the show, and he says this. He's talking about he's doing well because he's in therapy, and he says, but if I keep my body moving and my mind occupied at all times, I will avoid falling into a bottomless pit of despair. So I thought that was really funny, and I would say that my least favorite thing about social distancing has been the creeping bottomless pit of despair. I'm looking around to see some of yours. I'm so grateful that you shared. So nice. I love that. So not feeling awkward in class, maybe. That's a funny one. And then the least favorite is no hugs. Oh, no, Alani, I feel that. That's definitely very difficult. Yeah, the way that it's connecting people. I love that. I'm looking at Samantha's comment. One thing that you dislike would be not being able to have in-person connection, which, gosh, yeah, that is so real. I love seeing yours. I love seeing all of these things. Being able to see your family more, maybe over Zoom, that's a beautiful thing. But yeah, having plans canceled is another, gosh. Thank you all for sharing. There are more that I didn't get a chance to read out loud, but I look forward to looking through this chat when this wraps up. Continue to pop those in as I talk. This is why we're here, really, is to connect in a virtual way, right? So the chat is maybe the most important part of this presentation. So, okay, I'm going to move forward. So here we go. Social distancing. We're all experiencing it, doing what we can to try to fight this virus, right? And we just got this news, I think it was yesterday, that it's being extended for another month, and I'm sure that brings a lot of feelings. And so what are some of those feelings? Well, when you look on the internet, a lot of people are talking about how they feel out of touch with others. Definitely. I feel that. We all feel that. What I want to talk today about is how it might make us feel out of touch with ourselves. And so I just briefly looked at some of the literature on quarantine, and I think many of you might have found this too. I know there are articles floating around the internet and Facebook about the mental health impacts of social distancing and quarantine. So I'll be brief here, but essentially what they told us is that the outcomes are not great. And I think this one study that came out in February of 2020, so quite recently, looked at 6 other studies throughout the world of various infectious diseases like Ebola and others, and the way that people who were quarantined responded to being quarantined. And so just increased loneliness, increased substance use, sleeplessness, anxiety, all of the bad things. Right. And I am from the Counseling Center, and we don't want people to experience those bad things, right? You go on the internet, and you might see a ton of ways to respond to those things. And that's actually what I want to talk about today, which is my second bullet. Okay, so we know that the outcomes of social distancing aren't great. But then we log on to our computers and we see literally 100 things that you can do to make it better. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but sometimes you might log on to Facebook or Instagram and you see 6 different people posting their workouts. Oh, you can do this at-home workout. And, oh, well, if you just follow this schedule, your self-care is going to be amazing. And if you take one bubble bath a day and have one Zoom meeting scheduled with your family a day, you can combat social isolation and you'll feel great. it feels like a lot of pressure, and it feels like a lot of things to navigate. So what I have kind of talked about in my second bullet here is, there's a number of things that can combat these experiences, and there's no limit to information on videos, articles, and podcasts. And there's probably no wrong place to turn, right? Like a bubble bath a day, I don't think can harm anyone. But are there any roadmaps to help us navigate this just vast spread of information? I would say perhaps yes, in the form of the Enneagram. Now, before I kind of jump in to the Enneagram, just a little intro to the way that I'm oriented to this tool is just that it's a tool. It's a wonderful tool. I'm from the Counseling Center, and we don't use the Enneagram as maybe like the go-to empirically validated coursework that we were trained on, in our master's programs, but we see it as a tool. And it's one of the many. And so we're going to do a ton of wellness webinars, and we're interacting with you guys in a ton of ways. And this is just one of the ways that we want to do it. And I want to introduce the Enneagram maybe with a little caveat to say, I know many of you probably know this tool well. We're at Trinity Christian College, and I talk to so many people who know it really well. So I might not deliver it in a way that shows expertise, but definitely an interest, and hopefully an interest that will help us integrate with like the mental health component of why we're here. So, okay, intro to the Enneagram. It's 9 types. They're not in valued order. And I think that's important to note, right? Because you might tell someone that they're a 2 and they're like, out of 9? But no, they're not in valued order at all. They might as well be colors. And that's my second bullet, is that I actually find them very helpful to be thought of as colors, right? Because again, you might be new to the Enneagram, and I tell you that you are a 2, and you say, well, I've heard that my roommate's a 2 and we're not the same at all. Well, I would say, okay, let's look at this color chart. So we have like a lemon yellow, and we have a bumblebee yellow, and those are 2 totally different versions of yellow. So all that to say, there's diversity within your types. We're not interested in putting anyone in a box. Okay, next thing about the Enneagram and why it might be helpful to us. The Enneagram looks at each type's core fears and core desires. It's about movement, and it's about kind of like growth. The thing that I have found that distinguishes the Enneagram maybe from other personality typing systems, like you go on BuzzFeed and it's like, which Spice Girl are you? Or what color is your aura? Or something like that. So fun. Love a personality test. However, they're very stagnant, right? They're descriptive. They just tell you about why you are. Oh, that's Sunny Baby Spice. I'm looking at the chat. Definitely feel that. They don't tell you much beyond just like a descriptive. But the Enneagram, I think, is really helpful in that it kind of offers a chance to be prescriptive. And that's, again, why we're here and what I want to talk about. And so I'm going to move through this for the sake of time because I've been introing quite a bit. But the last thing that I do want to say that is super important is that the Enneagram, while it was originally used as a Christian tool for spiritual formation, people of all faith traditions or no faith tradition can benefit from utilizing the Enneagram. That's really important. Just like as someone who is relatively new to Trinity in the last year, have so valued Trinity's commitment and celebration of diversity, commitment to and celebration of diversity in every regard, right? And so spiritually, we also really value that. And the Enneagram, it has Christian roots, but it can be used by truly anyone of any faith tradition or no faith tradition at all. In that, it emphasizes this one thing, which I've bolded and italicized. The Enneagram is about better knowing yourself as you move towards or away from health. So it's about movement. And why we're here today is to talk about how each type might respond to the experience of social distancing and Yeah, so before we talk about that though, I wanted to share with you the image that sparked this entire presentation. So this image was given to me by my supervisor, Stephanie Griswold, whose name I'm wearing, Dr. Griswold, and it was just really funny. And so after we looked at it, we were like, oh wow, this would be a great way to connect with students in a wellness sense, and that was where this presentation was born. So I'm going to read it to you. I know you can all read, but I think it's really funny. So the Enneagram and social distancing. Type 1, good, now maybe I can finally get some stuff done around here. Type 2, I'm sending tips, treats to all my friends. Type 3, putting this side by side with the Spanish flu outbreak of 1918, we're moving in good directions here. I'm encouraged. Type 4, aren't we already distanced socially? Type 5, my dreams have been realized. Type 6, I'm FaceTiming everyone shut in from church, bless their hearts. Type 7, the president didn't say anything about travel to Chile, and the fares are ridiculously low right now, and it happens to be the best part of the astronomical viewing season in the Andes. Type 8, I distance myself from whomever I like, whenever I like. And type 9, this whole thing is probably my fault. So that's kind of like a funny intro to how different personalities are responding to this experience. And now I want to talk maybe a little bit more specifically about each type. Before I do that, I'm going to tell you what I was thinking about for this presentation initially, which was to give you these. I'm going to go through them in more depth, but to give you like 1, 2, 3, and then to give you related coping skills, okay? You can see my screen. This is quite a bit of content. We're here for 30 minutes, and it just simply was not going to work. As good as this content is, I just took it from an Enneagram Instagram page, and they're linked here, not to plagiarize. It's phenomenal. You should check it out. At the end of this presentation, I'll give you a ton of links to different things. But yeah, I realized, hey, the people tuning into this can read. So we're not going to do that. But I do want to talk about maybe the broader things that your personality might be experiencing based on type. And then more of like a general way to formulate a game plan based on your type, if that makes sense. I will, at the end of this presentation, probably do because we're going to put it on YouTube, maybe like 5 seconds with each of those slides so that you could pause it and look at it when this goes up on YouTube. And in addition to that, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to ask you if you would like to put your email in the chat, and then I can see that and email anyone the slides, just of those slides, so that you have that on your own time and that I'm not reading to you for 30 minutes. So, okay, we'll talk about that in a minute, but here we go. These are each of the types. So as I read these types, or what I've compiled, I'll tell you how I got this information. So I have been texting and talking to people of each type and asking them how they're dealing with social distancing and related social isolation. In addition to that, I've just been kind of cross-referencing different Instagram pages that I follow, or it's mostly Instagram because that's where the content on social distancing is coming out most quickly. But yeah, trying to honor each type. But if I miss something relevant to your type, I'm sorry. And yeah, okay, here we go. So the type 1 is principled, purposeful, self-controlled, and perfectionistic. I got the definition from the Enneagram Institute. Okay, and among other things, while socially distanced, type 1 might be feeling a growing to-do list, increasing worry about the actions of other people, and a desire to control the unstructured. Moving forward, just to give us a brief intro, type 2, the socially distanced helper. 2s are generous, demonstrative, people-pleasing, maybe possessive. Again, that's the definition from the Institute. And among other things, they may be feeling in this time pressured to check in on everyone else, overworked, underappreciated, and lonely. Type 3, adaptable, excelling, driven, and image-conscious 3s in social distancing may feel restless to return to being busy, unproductive, purposeless, and maybe some feelings of failure, because the 3s love to work. Type 4, the expressive, dramatic, temperamental and self-referencing individualist, when socially distanced, might be feeling restless to share their ideas and thoughts with others, a little uninspired, confined, and unfulfilled. Type 5, the perceptive, innovative, secretive, and isolated, socially distanced investigator, among other things, may be feeling that their alone time has been intruded upon, afraid of what social demands might be placed on them, and a little stubborn because of it. Type 6, the engaging, responsible, anxious, and suspicious type. The socially distanced loyalist might be feeling intense fear and worry about how things will play out, separated from your support systems and your people. Type 7, I think I outed myself on the Trinity Trolls Instagram page. I'm a 7, and so the Enneagram Institute defines 7s as spontaneous, versatile, acquisitive, and scattered. And when socially distanced, the enthusiast, the 7, might be feeling afraid of being unstimulated and stuck forever, trapped, and stir crazy. The socially distanced 8, an 8 is self-confident, decisive, willful, and confrontational by nature. And in this time, they might be feeling fear of being controlled by the unknown, angry that your freedom is being encroached upon, and rebellious because of it.
Yeah.
Our last type is 9, and the 9 by nature is receptive, reassuring, complacent, and resigned. And when socially distanced, our 9 peacemaker friends might be feeling the desire to shut down and numb out, burnt out from navigating and diffusing potential conflicts in the home. So, okay, we've named them. We saw them on Instagram too, that each of these types are feeling maybe a specific response to social distancing. Now, if you're new to the Enneagram, or if you're new to the Enneagram, you might log on and say, okay, I literally feel all of those things. And to you, I will say, me too. These are all probably common experiences of social distancing, right? Like, who doesn't feel lonely? Who doesn't feel unfulfilled? Who doesn't feel intense fear and worry about how this might play out, right? So I'm going to go back to like a neutral page, though, as I talk about them broadly. What the Enneagram has to offer us in this time, I think, is understanding how those core fears and core desires, right, are going to be stacked. That's language that I've enjoyed and appreciated about the Enneagram, is that it helps us understand how our fears and desires are stacked. And so I'll use myself as an example. I'm a 7, so I'm going to feel trapped and stir crazy in this time. Like I said, I might also be feeling lonely and anxious, but the Enneagram helps me understand that when I'm stressed, this one's going to rise to the top. I don't know what's going to come secondary or tertiary to that, but typically the worst I'm going to feel, it's going to be trapped and stir crazy with a little bit of the others. So the Enneagram is just a really helpful lens to understand how we're feeling. And I'm going to do a little case example here in a minute. I think case example is a clinically appropriate term to use, maybe a little too jargony, but okay, moving forward. How can we use the Enneagram to combat social isolation? Okay, so that is really why we're here, right? Is that we just did this brief intro to what this tool is. And now the question is, how do we use it? So I talked about at the beginning of this presentation just the vast array of things that are presented to us when we open our phone or laptop, right? Like, 10 things that make social isolation and quarantine better. Like, when you're done with quarantine, you're going to have 6-pack abs, you're going to have homeschooled your kids, they're all getting into Harvard, and you wrote a book, and you finished your coursework, and you graduated college early. Like, you're supposed to make the most out of your quarantine, right? And there's so much information coming at you. I find the Enneagram is potentially helpful for helping you sort through that information, if that makes sense. So the way to do that that I have found and thought about is just with 2 simple steps. And obviously it's not always that simple, but my hope is that you would spend time gaining understanding about yourself. So reading about your type. If you're new to this whole Enneagram thing, identifying your type. And I'm going to post some links here at the end of my presentation. Yeah, so reading about your type, identifying your type, your levels of health, where you go when you're feeling great and where you go when you're not feeling great, getting to know you. And the next would be thinking and journaling about your findings. I don't think that I would be a therapist if I didn't tell you to think and journal. And so here I am doing that. But in addition to that, to add some maybe direction to that very nebulous recommendation of just thinking, I would say develop a game plan, actually, one that's specific to your findings about your type. So setting aside time to engage in 2 to 3 of these healthy practices each day, specific to you, I think could be really helpful and might make you feel more connected to yourself in a way that social distancing might pull you away from yourself. Talking about this case example, I'm going to relate this to me because that's the best I can do. I probably know myself the best. And so I live with an Enneagram 1, and I'm an Enneagram 7. And this art, I posted the artist. Her Instagram handle is Rockin' Ruxy. She's incredible. Yeah. Okay. So these are the two of us. All right. So picture this. I come home and I say, or I guess I don't come home. I'm always home. I come out of my room and I say, Julia, social distancing is hard. I've been reading tons of things, and I think the way that we're going to combat this is we both need to get rollerblades. We need to be spontaneous. We need to do adventures together, and just be spontaneous and live life. It's going to be awesome. We're going to get laughed at by the neighborhood kids, and that's what you need to feel good. She would probably freak out. Like, that is really stressful to her. The same would happen if she were to come out of her room and say, like, Carly, I've been reading a lot about social distancing. The best way for you to handle this is if you schedule a rigid schedule for yourself, Zoom call your parents twice a day at this time. It's going to be great. You need the structure. You're going to love it. I would also freak out. And so the Enneagram helps us kind of get language for why the specific practices of like coping skills for social distancing are so helpful for our individual personalities. So I would encourage you to do the same for yourself through the lens of the Enneagram. As I kind of wrap up here, I'm going to leave you with the resources to do that. If you're new to the Enneagram, there's a really helpful online assessment. It was given to us by Caravan Marion, us at the Counseling Center, and I thought it was really good. I put a little star here because typically, if you're a big Enneagram fanatic, you might resonate with me here when I say the best way to know your type is not through a test. Typically, it's through reading and talking and just really thinking about your type. But this particular assessment is really cool because it gives you kind of weighted scores for each one. So like you scored really high on 7 and kind of high on 8. Maybe you should read both of them and see which one feels right. So that's what that is. There's additional online readings, and then a really great book that many people that are into the Enneagram would recommend as a starting place would be The Road Back to You. You can get a hard paper copy, which is such a gift, I think, in this time. You can also get an Audible on Amazon, or you could, get like a Kindle version. It's a great place to start. I wouldn't be a millennial if I didn't link you to Instagram accounts that I find really helpful. And again, in this time, the content's coming out quick. People are home on their phones and there is a lot to be seen. So helpful, insightful content that I found, many of you might follow these accounts, are Enneagram and Coffee and Just My Enneatype. And then I also have provided some really great meme accounts that you can read here. But I put some of my favorite ones here. Let's see. So the 4-wing 3 I really like. I'm going to read it to you. Going into quarantine, not showing any symptoms. I just really need time to focus on myself. And to do a little self-deprecating, I'll do 7. So 7s, when they see all the cruise ship deals in the midst of coronavirus, that's Michael Scott aggressively holding 2 tickets to the Sandals Resort. And he says, I've got 2 tickets to paradise. And I would be lying if I, told you that I didn't consider travel plans when this all happened, but I am here at home doing the responsible thing. Okay, so I will leave you with this. Know yourself better so that you can better take care of yourself. The Enneagram is one resource and one tool that you can do that with, but it's the one that we chose to focus on today. you're gonna continue to be bombarded probably with coping skills and various resources on the web, and they're all great. But maybe using a little bit of a framework will help you create a roadmap for navigating them. And I would recommend the Enneagram as one of them. So thank you so much. I have one more announcement before I leave you all. Here we go. We have another wellness webinar on, we do these every week. So the next one is same time, same place. So Wednesday at 4:30, unless otherwise instructed, but that's the day we're planning on. Dr. Griswold, I meant to put who's doing it. Dr. Griswold is going to be talking about Harry Potter and the defense against the dark thoughts. I'm really excited for this. I cannot wait to tune in. I am very, very excited. So that's next week, same time, same place. As I leave you, I'm probably going to figure out how to disable my camera, and then I'm going to go through each of these things that I had mentioned slowly, so that you can pause and screenshot and do and have these wonderful roadmaps for each of the types. And in addition to that, I would love to email them to you if you would like to place your email in the chat. So thank you so much. I'm going to do that now, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Okay, bye. Okay, you can still hear me, I think. I'm gonna just go through these. So you've had some time with the one. I'm going to do 2. And 3. 4. 5. And 6. Here's 7. 8. And 9. Okay, so that's everything. I am going to make sure I get all of these emails, and then I'm going to log off. So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.